Welcome to Reddit Confessions.
It wasn't the missing tools that scared me. It was the way April's hands shook when I told her. Someone went through the garage, I said, holding up the empty socket case like a crime scene prop. Door was cracked when I got home. Half my set is gone. April stood at the sink, rinsing the same glass over and over. Maybe you misplaced them, she said. Too fast, too bright. I know my shifts blur together. I know exhaustion makes me forget small things. But not this. I don't misplace tools. Neighbors mentioned a white truck. I lied, just to see her face. She froze for a fraction of a second. Diane? She asked softly, like Diane Calloway, the HOA president, was the name of a hurricane. Could have been anyone, I said, watching her too closely. This neighborhood isn't as safe as it pretends. Outside, the street looked perfect. Fresh lawns, flags on cue, smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Our little cul-de-sac worshipped order, but under the paint was rot. Diane kept us all in line with her visor, her pearls, her clipboard. She was judge, jury, executioner of gossip. I'm putting in cameras, I said finally. Front, back, garage. Maybe one in here, too. Her grip tightened around the glass. Inside? Really? I don't want cameras watching us live. It's just until we figure this out. When I'm on shift, I need to know you and the kids are safe. She forced a smile, but her shoulders slumped. Okay, if it makes you feel better. It did, but not in the way she thought. The cameras arrived 2 days later. I spent the morning on a ladder while the sun baked my neck. James Dalton, our new neighbor, strolled out with a trash bag. He looked like every woman's gym crush. Lean, tan, too confident for his own good. Setting up the bat signal, he called. Just trying to keep honest people honest, I said. He grinned. Heard about the break-in. Bold move, man. You see anything weird? Not yet, I said. He leaned on the fence, casual. Your wife mentioned you're a paramedic. Respect. That's real work. Your wife mentioned. The words needled under my ribs. James tapped the side gate with his knuckles. That's your weak spot. Quick in, quick out. Good tip. My drill word. But my mind caught on every detail. The way he knew the house. The way he said, your wife, like it was a sentence he'd rehearsed. That night, after the cameras were live, I sat on the couch scrolling through test footage. Delivery drivers. Kids on bikes. A stray cat. Normal. April came in with 2 mugs of tea and curled against me, soft and warm, smelling like honey shampoo. You're not going to spend all night watching squirrels, are you? She teased, but her laugh cracked in the middle. I won't, I said. But I did. At 12:19 p.m. Earlier that day, the side gate camera caught him. Baseball cap, sunglasses, phone in hand. He moved with purpose, not caution, like he belonged. James. At 12:21, April opened the back door. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't scared. She smiled. And then he kissed her. Not a stolen, guilty kiss. A slow, practiced one. Like it wasn't their first. Like it wouldn't be their last. My throat locked. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I've seen bodies broken in car wrecks, hearts stopping in my ambulance. But this was the worst thing I'd ever witnessed. April walked back into the living room just then, hair damp from the shower, lips pink and raw. She set the tea down, looked at me with those same eyes that had once convinced me the world was good, and asked, "You okay?" I nodded. I even smiled. But inside, something had already died. The cameras weren't protecting my family. They were showing me who my wife really was. The worst part wasn't watching them kiss. It was how normal they looked doing it. Like this was a routine. Like my kitchen had always been theirs. I sat there long after the footage ended, the blue glow of my phone burning into my eyes. I scrubbed the video back, forward, back again. Every frame was another knife. The way his hand lingered on her hip. The way she tilted her chin just so, like she'd done 1,000 times before, only not for me. I couldn't stop replaying it. I told myself I was gathering proof, but really, I was torturing myself. April padded back into the living room in her slippers, hair tied in a loose bun. She carried popcorn, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. Movie night, she asked. I forced a smile. Sure. The cameras had sound, but only faint. When I cranked the playback to full volume, I caught her voice, muffled but distinct. You shouldn't be here this long. He'll notice. And his answer, smug, amused. Relax, April. He's saving lives. He won't notice a thing. I almost vomited. I should have confronted her right then. Should have screamed, smashed the phone into the wall, demanded answers. But instead, I kept quiet. Because part of me wanted to know more. How long? How often? So I studied the footage like a detective, not a husband. I noticed a pattern. James always came on Wednesdays. Sometimes noon. Sometimes later. But always when I was working my 48-hour shifts. He knew my schedule. That night, when April went to bed, I stayed on the couch, digging deeper. I started saving clips to a private folder in the app, just in case. The next morning, when I checked again, I found something new. The folder was empty. My stomach dropped. Someone had deleted the clips. I bolted to the main app feed, panic rising, but I'd already anticipated this. On instinct, I'd mirrored every file to a hidden cloud backup the first night. She thought she'd erased the evidence. She had no idea I still had it all. At breakfast, April slid a plate of eggs in front of me, leaning down to kiss my cheek. "You didn't sleep," she said, her voice sweet but probing. I didn't answer. I just chewed. Her lips brushed mine later that night in bed. She kissed me softly, the way she used to before the kids. The kind of kiss that used to make my heart stop. But I didn't kiss her back, because now I knew her kisses weren't mine anymore. He waved at me while I mowed the lawn, like he wasn't screwing my wife. The sun was hot, the grass clippings clung to my boots, and there he was. James Dalton. Shirtless, of course. Always shirtless. Wiping sweat from his abs like he was in a commercial no one asked for. "Morning, neighbor," he called, flashing that gym trainer grin. I cut the mower engine and gave a polite nod. My jaw ached from how hard I was clenching it. "Morning." He jogged over to the fence, leaning on it like we were old friends. "How's the new security setup?" "It works," I said flatly. Good, good. Can't be too careful around here." He chuckled, then glanced toward my front door. Our front door. "April mentioned you're gone a lot. Tough job, huh?" I stared at him. He wasn't just careless, he was cocky. He was letting me know, without saying it outright, that he knew my absences down to the hour. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Somebody's got to keep people alive." He grinned, like I told a joke. "Man, April must get lonely, though. Being stuck at home with the kids while you're out saving the world." My hands curled into fists at my sides. He said it casually, like an observation. But his eyes told the truth. It wasn't an observation. It was a confession. "Lonely," I repeated, my voice low. He shrugged, completely unbothered. "You know how it is." Oh, I knew. I knew more than he thought. I forced a smile and restarted the mower, drowning him out in the roar. He gave me a friendly salute and walked back to his house, every step radiating arrogance. That night, I sat on the porch with a beer, scrolling through the app again. Wednesday. Always Wednesday. He strutted into my home like it was penciled into his calendar. And then it hit me. He wasn't guessing when I'd be gone. He knew my exact shift schedule, which meant April had given it to him. I slammed the bottle down so hard the glass cracked in my hand. He wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was planning his next visit right in front of me. If I wanted to burn her social world, I needed someone who lit fires for fun. That someone was Diane Calloway, HOA president, neighborhood watchdog. The kind of woman who could ruin reputations with a smile and a well-timed "bless her heart." I caught her during her evening walk, clipboard in hand like always. She stopped in front of my driveway, already gearing up to comment on my slightly overgrown hedge. "Evening, Mr. Miller," she said, tone clipped but polite. "Grass is looking better." I leaned on the porch rail, beer in hand. "Diane, I need a favor." Her eyes narrowed. "A favor? You like to keep this neighborhood respectable, don't you?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She tilted her head, sensing the bait. "Of course. Why?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "What if I told you someone's been disrespecting it?" Her eyes lit up. That spark of nosy curiosity she tried to hide, but never could. Disrespecting how? Not with weeds or paint colors. I pulled my phone from my pocket, thumb hovering over the saved clips. With behavior. Behind closed doors. Her lips pursed. She loved order, hated scandal, but gossip? That was her oxygen. "If you're implying what I think you are, I'd need proof." I handed her the phone. The video was short. James slipping in through the gate. April opening the door, the kiss. Diane didn't gasp. She didn't blink. She just watched, stone-faced, then handed the phone back. Delivered, she said simply. And she walked away, visor bobbing under the streetlights, like a general marching off to war with new ammunition. Inside, April sat on the couch, scrolling her phone. She looked up with a smile. Diane giving you grief about the lawn again? I forced a smile back. Something like that. She had no idea the bomb I'd just dropped into her precious little suburban kingdom. Because by morning, the whispers would start, and April's perfect facade would begin to crack. When the whispers started, April stopped smiling in the mornings. At first, it was small things. The neighbor who usually waved at her while walking his dog suddenly crossed the street instead. The moms who used to chat with her at the park kept their sunglasses on, their heads tilted together, pretending not to see her. She tried to laugh it off. Weird vibe today, she said one afternoon, sliding banana bread onto a plate like nothing was wrong. But her hands shook. She'd baked twice in 1 week. April only stress-baked. By Friday, she couldn't ignore it. They're acting strange, she muttered, slamming the dishwasher shut. Everyone's looking at me like I've got something on my face. Maybe you do, I said quietly, sipping coffee. She froze, back to me, shoulders stiff. What's that supposed to mean? I shrugged. I don't know. Maybe people see more than you think. She spun, eyes sharp. Are you saying something? Because you've been different. Distant. Cold. Cold. I laughed, but it came out flat. That's rich. Her voice cracked as she raised it. You're never home, Ethan. I'm here alone, drowning with the kids. And when you are here, you're checked out. You don't even look at me anymore. I set my mug down slowly. My pulse thudded in my ears. Is James helping with that stress? Her face froze. Like a photograph. She didn't blink. Didn't breathe. For 1 perfect second, I watched the truth rip across her features before she masked it again. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered, her voice trembling. But her eyes told me everything. Because in that silence, I finally knew. She wasn't going to confess. I'd have to drag the truth out myself. April said she was taking the kids to the park. The cameras said otherwise. It was Saturday. I'd just gotten home from a brutal shift, the kind that left your body aching and your head hollow. She kissed me on the cheek, cheerful, too cheerful. We'll give you some quiet. The babysitter can handle things for a bit. She loaded the kids into the minivan, waved, and drove off. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Back door, open. I frowned. Babysitter, maybe? Except when I pulled up the feed, I didn't see a teenage girl with homework in her backpack. I saw James. He strolled through the gate like he owned it. Baseball cap backward this time. Same cocky grin. And then the real gut punch. I heard crying through the porch mic. I flipped to the nursery cam. My kids. Still home. My chest tightened. She had left them alone so she could bring him here. No babysitter. No park. Just a lie. I sat there, watching the live feed as James slipped off his shoes and walked upstairs. I switched cameras. Bedroom feed. At 12:07, April walked into the room in a dress I hadn't seen in years. The kind of dress you wear when you want to be wanted. She didn't look nervous. Didn't look guilty. She looked alive. He kissed her, pushed her back onto our bed. The bed where my kids sometimes crawled in after nightmares. The bed where we'd promised each other forever. And she let him. I couldn't breathe. My chest was a cage with no oxygen. I wanted to throw the phone, punch a hole in the wall, drive my fist through his smug face. But I just sat there, silent, watching every second. Because anger can be loud, but revenge is patient. When the clip ended, I saved it, labeled it, locked it away in a folder she'd never find. And that's when I knew. This wasn't salvageable. This wasn't a mistake or a phase. This was war. And the first step in war is preparation, which is why the next morning, I called a lawyer. There's something brutally satisfying about researching custody law while your wife sleeps next to you. She lay curled on her side, breathing softly, her hand resting where my chest used to be. I stared at the glow of my laptop, the words grounds for sole custody sharp against the dark. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was planning. The next morning, I told her I had a double shift. Instead, I drove downtown and walked into a lawyer's office. Her name was Sharon Klein. Mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She listened while I laid it all out. The cameras, the affair, the lies. I showed her the clips. She didn't flinch. You've got leverage, she said, tapping her pen against a yellow legal pad. Video evidence of infidelity, neglect, leaving your children unattended? That's gold in court. I leaned forward. What about him? James Dalton. She flipped a page. If he's got a history, we can use it. That's when she dug deeper than I ever could. Divorce records. Gym complaints. A trail of smoke that suddenly made sense. James wasn't just a charming trainer. He was a predator. A married client had filed a harassment claim 2 years ago. It never stuck, but the complaint existed. In his own divorce, his ex-wife cited inappropriate behavior as a cause. People like him don't change, Sharon said flatly. They just change partners. I felt something cold and clean settle inside me. Finally, a weapon. That night, while April washed dishes, I drafted a letter. Simple. Anonymous. Mailed to James's ex-wife. You deserve to know what he's doing now. I slipped in a USB drive. 2 clips. Enough to ruin him twice. The next morning, while April hummed in the kitchen, I sealed the envelope and dropped it in the mailbox. By the time it landed in her hands, I'd already filed the custody papers. And as I walked out of the courthouse, I knew James Dalton had just stepped into a fight he couldn't charm his way out of. The room smelled like perfume and judgment. April had begged me to come with her to the HOA social, but I said I was too tired from work. Truth was, I wanted her to walk in there alone. The Calloway house was packed. Couples with their carefully ironed khakis, wine glasses in hand, smiles sharper than knives. April wore her favorite floral dress, the one she always saved for respectable events. She needed them to see her as perfect, but Diane Calloway had other plans. Halfway through the meeting, Diane cleared her throat. The chatter died instantly. Neighbors, I need to address a concern. April stiffened in her chair. Diane clicked a remote, and on the TV mounted above her fireplace, a grainy clip played. Security footage. My footage. The gate swinging open. James slipping inside. April holding the door for him. Their kiss. It wasn't long. Just enough. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "Is that April?" Another muttered, "With James?" April's face went white. She tried to laugh, to wave it off. "That's not. That must be edited." Diane cut her off smoothly. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we need tighter security in our neighborhood. If anyone's personal activities compromise our community's integrity, it will be addressed." She never said April's name. She didn't have to. By the end of the night, no one made eye contact with my wife. The couples who once clung to her every PDA suggestion now avoided her like she carried a disease. When she got home, she stormed into the living room, eyes red, makeup smeared. "They called me a homewrecker," she whispered, voice cracking. In front of everyone. I set down my coffee and looked her in the eye. "Why do you care what they think, April?" Her breath hitched. She didn't answer. Because deep down, we both knew. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was terrified of losing them. I let her dig her own grave before I said a word. April had been pacing the kitchen for hours, replaying the HOA meeting in her head, ranting about Diane, about the neighbors, about small-minded people. Every excuse but the truth. Finally, I leaned back in my chair and said, "You know what the funny thing is? I didn't say a word to Diane." She froze. "What do you mean?" I didn't need to. I folded my arms, watching her like I watch a patient who's trying to hide the pain. "You did that all by yourself." Her eyes darted, calculating, scrambling. "Ethan, don't start. I don't know what people told you, but it's not true." I almost laughed. "Not true." "Yes," she snapped. "James is just a friend. A neighbor who helps out sometimes when you're gone. That's all." I stood, slowly, and pulled my phone from my pocket. My thumb hovered over the saved folder. A friend. Her breath caught. "What are you doing?" I turned the screen toward her. A still image. James stepping into our kitchen, his hand on her waist, her lips parting for him. The color drained from her face. For a moment, silence filled the kitchen, heavy as lead. Then she whispered, voice trembling, "How much do you know?" And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't denying it anymore. She was negotiating with her own guilt. I handed her the envelope. She didn't open it. She already knew. Her hands shook, but she didn't tear the seal. She just stared at the manila like it was a live grenade. "Ethan, what is this?" "Custody filings. Divorce papers." My voice was steady. Too steady. Her eyes filled with tears instantly, the kind that used to break me. "Not this time. No, no, you can't do this. Not like this. We can fix it, we can." "There's nothing to fix." I cut her off. "You made your choice. I made a mistake, she screamed, slamming the envelope onto the counter. One mistake, and you're going to blow up our family. One. My laugh was bitter. I've got weeks of footage, April. Weeks. This wasn't an accident. This was a life you built right under my nose. She sobbed, gripping the counter for balance. Please, don't do this to the kids. I'll stop. I'll never see him again. Just let me stay. For them. For them. I stepped closer, lowering my voice until she had to look me in the eye. You left them alone so you could screw him in our bed. Don't you dare pretend this is for them. Her face twisted, ugly with rage. You'll regret this, Ethan, she spat. I leaned in, calm, cold. No, you already do. She broke then, slammed the envelope at my chest before storming down the hall, her sobs echoing through the house that suddenly felt too big, too empty. I stood in the silence, the papers pressed against my heart like a shield. And in that silence, I decided I wasn't just ending my marriage. I was going to destroy hers, too. A man with no reputation is a man with nothing to defend. But James built his entire life on charm, on being the good guy, the trainer who flirted just enough, who made you feel special, who smiled like he belonged everywhere. That was his mask, and I was about to rip it off. It started with an email. Anonymous, untraceable. Subject line, concern about trainer conduct. Inside, a video file. One of my saved clips. James slipping into my house. James with his hands all over April. James, in the middle of the day, while my kids slept upstairs. I didn't have to say a word. The footage said everything. The gym's manager called me 3 days later. Sir, I don't know who you are, but thank you for bringing this to our attention. By the end of the week, James was suspended pending internal investigation. And then the real crack started. A female client filed a complaint. Then another. Women whispered, emboldened now that the golden boy had a stain on his record. What once slid under the rug now came crawling out. By Friday night, I watched him pacing his driveway, phone glued to his ear, shouting at someone. His swagger was gone. His shoulders slumped. For the first time, James Dalton looked like a man drowning. But the best part came the next evening. A knock on my door. Firm. Angry. I opened it, and there he was, sweat on his brow, jaw tight, eyes burning. We need to talk, he growled. I smiled, calm as a surgeon. Yeah, we do. Because this time, it wouldn't be on camera. It would be face to face. He looked like a man ready to fight. I was ready to finish it. James shoved past me into the living room, his fists balled, his chest heaving. What the hell did you do? He barked. I shut the door calmly. I don't know. What did you do, James? Don't play with me. He was pacing wild-eyed now. The gym suspended me. Clients are bailing. My ex is calling me nonstop. I smiled. Sounds like people are finally seeing the real you. He spun on me, pointing a finger in my face. You're ruining my life. No, James, I said, voice low, steady. You ruined mine. I'm just evening the score. He laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. You think this makes you a man? Hiding behind cameras, turning neighbors against her, against me? She came to me because you weren't there. Because you're cold. You don't touch her. You don't see her. I stepped closer until we were eye to eye. I see her clearer than you ever did. He smirked, leaning in, venom dripping from his words. She begged for me, Ethan. Every time. In your bed. While your kids. I didn't hit him. I didn't need to. Instead, I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit play. His own voice filled the room. My hidden recording from this very conversation. His confession. Every damning word. James froze. His face drained. You son of a, he started, but I cut him off. This goes to my lawyer in the morning. He stared at me, breathing hard, and then something in him snapped. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. 10 minutes later, I heard the screech of tires. Then the crash. A sickening crunch of metal on metal, just down the street. I stood at the window, watching neighbors rush toward the sound. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't tighten. For once, I felt nothing at all. Because whether he lived or died, James Dalton was already finished. It was 2 days after the crash. James survived, broken ribs, a totaled car, a bruised ego. But in this neighborhood, survival wasn't the same as living. His name was already toxic. His career gone. His reputation, ash. I told him never to come back. Ethan, please. We can fix this. I didn't answer. I just sipped my coffee, staring at the steam. She reached for my hand. He meant nothing. It was a mistake. I was lonely, and he manipulated me. That's all it was. Her tears fell hard, splashing against the counter. She looked so small, so desperate. For a second, I almost saw the woman I married, the girl who used to write my name on napkins when we were kids. I never loved him, she choked out. I only love you. The words slipped past my defenses, digging into the part of me that still wanted to believe, that still wanted to forgive. And for one dangerous heartbeat, I almost did. But then my phone buzzed. A notification from the hidden archive. I opened it. Old messages I'd missed in the first sweep. From her to him. When can I see you again? He's on nights. We have tomorrow. I think about you all the time. She hadn't been manipulated. She'd been the one chasing, the one planning, the one leading. I slid the phone across the counter. She read the messages, her face draining of all color. Her lips trembled. I just wanted to feel seen, she whispered. I stood, walked past her, and didn't look back. Because in that moment, I knew I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her punishment. In court, silence is louder than screaming. April sat 2 chairs down, hair pulled tight, eyes red. She'd dressed carefully, the good mother cardigan, the soft colors. Everything about her said victim, but the tremble in her hands betrayed her. Her lawyer droned on about reconciliation, about children needing their mother, about how my job kept me away too much. April nodded through tears, dabbing delicately at her eyes with a tissue. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. When it was Sharon's turn, my lawyer rose with the calm of someone who knew the ending already. She spoke simply, no theatrics, neglect, infidelity, endangerment. Then she pulled out the flash drive. Exhibit A. The monitors lit up with the footage. April opening the door. James kissing her. James walking upstairs while my children cried in the background. The courtroom didn't gasp. It went quiet. Uncomfortably quiet. The judge's eyes narrowed. April's mask cracked. She shook her head furiously. That's out of context. That's not. Exhibit B, Sharon interrupted. James's confession. His own voice. She begged for me, Ethan. Every time. In your bed. While your kids. Enough, the judge said firmly, slamming the gavel. The ruling came faster than I expected. Sole custody. My custody. April would get visitation rights, but under supervision. She sat frozen, lips parted in disbelief, tears streaming down her face. As we stood to leave, she turned to me, her mouth twisting into venom. She mouthed, I hate you. I smiled politely, nodded once, and walked away. Because I hadn't just won custody, I'd taken everything she valued more than me. The house was finally quiet. But peace is never silent. The kids were asleep upstairs. No crying, no footsteps, no laughter bouncing off the walls. Just silence. The kind that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I walked through the room slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the memories. Every corner of this place had a ghost now. April cooking at the stove. April laughing on the porch. April kissing someone else in our kitchen. She was gone, but her shadow lingered. I poured a drink and sat at the dining table, staring at the empty chair across from me. For the first time in months, I didn't feel anger or grief, just weightless. The neighborhood was quieter too, cleaner. Diane stopped by earlier with her usual air of triumph, patting my arm like she was crowning me king of the cul-de-sac. Your clips did more than protect your home, she said. They cleaned up a lot of trash around here. She meant James. She meant April. But she also meant every couple who now locked their doors tighter, who eyed each other with suspicion. My cameras had done more than expose an affair. They had poisoned the illusion of perfection this suburb thrived on. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt vindicated. After Diane left, I went upstairs, checked on the kids, then came back down to my phone. Out of habit, I scrolled through the archive one last time. Most of the files I'd already burned onto a drive for my lawyer. But there was one clip I hadn't seen before. The timestamp was recent. I tapped it. The feed showed April in the bedroom, alone, packing clothes into a suitcase. She didn't cry. She didn't rush. She just folded each item carefully, as if she had all the time in the world. Then she turned to the camera, looked straight into the lens, and smiled. Because even after losing everything, April wanted me to know one last thing. The game wasn't over.